Welcome back, you lovely people. Now, this is an extra bonus video for you because we think you deserve it. And this is all of our special pre-war, post-war with our resident expert, George. And I'll leave you to decide yourself whether he is pre-war or post-war because I myself don't know. George, could you unveil?
Well, I'd like to say that I was born before this car came on the road. It was originally, this particular car was made in France, but some of them were also made in England, in Slough. So this is a French car, and like lots of cars, they actually have some connection with television or films. So a lot of these are remembered as the Maigret car from the French detective series, and you'd see them charging around cobble streets in Paris and wherever these acts took place. This is a beautiful car. Sadly, it's come from somebody that passed away fairly recently, and you can see it's a very stylish car, very able to go on many modern roads. And if you come and have a look inside, I'll open it up. You can have a look inside. Left-hand drive.
So I think these are actually Peugeot, I think, 206 seats. So that it's got a seat out of a later car, which actually does make it much more comfortable. So if you look, it's got the runner. So the purists will not love the fact that it's got the plastic trim on the bottom of the runner, but you could take that off. But what you do have, because of that, is a much, much comfier seat. So it's a 48 car, imported in 2016. It's got the indicators, which is a really good upgrade on this one as well. Matching set of Michelins. We must pronounce it correctly because it's
Michelin.
Michelin.
Hey.
And,
It's not a restaurant, by the way.
they make a great restaurant. But also, as George says, what's nice about these is, although this is a 40s car, these drive more like a 60s car, don't
Definitely.
they? They drive like 20 years later than they are.
I think one of the things about a lot of French cars, and I've been in lots of them, and particularly of this period, they're very, very comfy to be in.
Yeah.
The whole geometry, it's quite a long steering between front and back, so it goes over lots of bumps. And French cars have always been renowned for being remarkably comfortable. Maybe not the best made, but certainly comfortable.
Very much so. £8,000 to £9,000, and you can take that one home. So have a bid on that wonderful car. And the nice thing is, in the circles of attraction Avant, that's very price conscious. That really is. Under 10 grand for one of these. But probably one of the most usable 40s cars. And again, instant style, park them anywhere, take them anywhere. Just usable, wonderful thing.
And finally, to leave, when I used to go to France when I was a bit older than this car, I used to see them being used for taxis.
Yeah, it's true. When George went to France, it was on a landing craft.
1967.
Let's talk about buying a car, George, that's impossible amounts of style, impossible amounts of presence, and I just think utterly beautiful for really not a lot of money. So this is a 1929 Graham Paige Coupe. You could buy this car for £6,500, £7,500, but just talk us through, these are astonishing value, aren't they, these cars?
They really are. Obviously, it's an American car, it's left-hand drive. At the time, it's just about the time when Ford were bringing out the Model A, and the desire in America was to have cars with a bit more go, a bit bigger and a bit stronger, and this fits all those bills. If you look inside here, it's got a wonderful, great, big, powerful engine, and it's been recommissioned. I haven't actually driven the car, but I'm led to believe that, you know, it'll comfortably go along at 45, 50 mile an hour, and again, it's very capable with obviously it being a two-seater.
And also 62 horsepower that, George. I think you will bowl along. I reckon you'll at least get up to the speed limit in a 60, I reckon.
Well, it might
downhill with the wind behind you.
Yes, I think you might be right, but I think you'd need to be a bit brave.
Well, you've got those artillery wheels. Let me give you some facts and stats, my friend. UK registered already. Came in from Ohio in 2013. Only had one former owner. This is beautiful Briggs coachwork. It's got the Graham Paige rear lamp, and that's a 3.1 side valve engine with the, as I said before, the heady 62 brake horsepower. What you'll do with all that power, I do not know. Isn't that wonderful? So that is a very nice car. Like I say, £6,500 to £7,500. You could be I think the very cool, very lucky, very happy new owner of that.
You know, we've come to the front of the car now, and I can imagine driving in a modern car it is, and you see this coming down the road behind you with that imposing big radiator, those lovely headlamps, and the style of the body. This was when they were able to put some wasting in it, instead of just having flat bits of metal. Look at the shape on the door
it's gorgeous,
and everything.
Isn't it? You can really see the coachwork.
Absolutely you can. And this way it goes with the scuttle and everything. Little, what I call out loud lights on the dashboard on the top of the dash there. It's a beautiful car, chrome thumb, it's magnificent.
I mean, they are almost criminally cheap, aren't they? That's the thing I love about the pre-war stuff, because it depends what it is. Obviously, certain makes, certain marques do fetch a huge premium, but this sort of stuff, this middle market stuff,
Well, I think
it's so much car, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, I have a number of people that have got 26 Buicks and things like that, which again, another make of manufacture from America with wooden wheels like this, and they're very, very drivable. In fact, there's one not too far from here that's in Chester, and I know somebody's got one near Bradford in Yorkshire as well. They are great cars.
Yeah. So come and buy that, because I just think that's a wonderful way to travel. Take the family as well. Get them in the back. Now this, utter beauty from 1949, and again, I'm not talking about George, is that a fabulous Bentley. Can we just talk about how this thing looks? Unbelievable. And for me, you know what makes this look so special, George? It's these twin spare wheel covers.
Right, well, from 1948 to 53, Bentley made a Mark VI, steel-bodied, and most of them don't have this add-on that's at some stage has been created, where you carry 2 spare wheels. So somebody that wanted to go touring to Europe or whatever it is, you'd have 2 tyres. Obviously, you can't put them in the boot because you can do it. And they are in here.
So look at that. So would that be in a coach built edition afterwards then, would you imagine?
I have spent quite a lot of time, and I'm sure some of my colleagues that know a lot more about these cars than me will tell you it was done by such a manufacturer, but I've been through all the manufacturers that I know made Mark 6s and the like. And obviously, to keep the weight down, you basically take a spare tyre and a tube, and if you have a problem, you go to a local garage, because obviously the weight of putting the wheel in would make it very heavy. Whoever did this, both sides, perfect. But the other interesting thing about the car is, if you look at some of the other Mark 6s, the seats are not like this. They've got pleats and whatever. So this at some stage was bespoke by somebody that wanted to know to make this car a bit special. It was owned by a hotel owner.
Rudolph Mancini.
I know.
Have you ever stayed in any of his hotels, George?
Well, in Blackpool.
Oh, yeah.
No, I've never been. But I have been to Blackpool. But it's a lovely car. Sadly, when we came to collect the car, there is a bit of a problem, maybe with the starter motor or the solenoid, which needs to be sorted out. We tried to start it, but it's a fantastic car in great condition, and it's going to be sold in lot 97, and I think it's got a reserve of £8,000. I hope this goes to somebody that will really enjoy it. I think this is a very special car.
I agree, and it's not a lot of money for something that's so special.
No.
Maybe you are a hotelier in Blackpool. Maybe you would like to relive the heyday of Rudolph Mancini, and this is the perfect way to do it.
The only thing that's a bit funny is to see a silver ghost mascot on the Bentley radiator. The interesting thing about it is, of course, there's the Rolls equivalent, and I always think it's quite interesting that people that are Rolls drivers don't like Bentleys, and Bentleys owners don't like Rolls. I think Bentley always, because of its sporting heritage, people like a Bentley.
It's true, although I'm like Switzerland, I have a Shadow and a T1, so I've got a foot in both camps.
We've tall enough to be able to do that.
So I love that. I think whoever buys that, I salute you, and please get it back on the road, and we'll all go to Blackpool with you. So they, as George says, 8 to 9, that's estimated at. What a way to travel. A magnificent example of post-war luxury. No, not George. This wonderful, wonderful Daimler. George, tell me about the DS18, because this is pretty.
Well, to start with, I think people should understand the history of what Daimler was all about. They started in the early 1900s making some very elaborate big cars. You'll see pictures of kings coming in and out of Buckingham Palace with these beautiful cars. So Daimler has always been and had the reputation of a luxury type of vehicle. They progressed all the way through the 20s and 30s, and by the time the war came, they supplied vehicles to the military and all kinds of things. Out they came with one of the first cars, which is a DS18. It's a very large-ish car by their standards, not the biggest, but this has been used as a wedding car, hence the two-tone paintwork, which I think works very well. It's got.
I'd imagine you get a lot of film work with this as well, wouldn't you? I'd have thought.
Well, I think that's true of a lot of these cars, to be quite honest with you. If you get yourself on some film register. Inside,
Come on, look inside, Fraser. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know which way you're going to go. But
Patinated to perfection. Suicide doors as well, look.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story about suicide doors as well as a young boy. But the interesting thing about it, it's a pre-selector box. And I remember driving when I was about 17, a Lanchester 10, which had a pre-selector box, which basically you select the gear on the steering column here, you press the clutch up and down, and off you go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an automatic of its day, but there wasn't. Nice old patina. It's no reserve, this car.
That's unbelievable. And also as well, it's very low owner counts as well. If my iPad will behave itself, there you go. It's been with the current owner since 2015. It's only got 4 previous owners on the V5C.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's the kind of car, and I say to lots of people, it's not a lot of money. It might need a little bit of tinkering with and the like, but you can have a lot of fun. Yeah, go to the seaside, take the kids out, go to a few shows, be a member of a car club.
Very much. And just utterly charming. I think that's the best word to use for cars like this, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's elegant. You know, look at the legroom in the back there.
Yeah, and the roof as well. It's got some roof.
Yeah. I wouldn't risk it.
So as George says, no reserve on that one. So you get to set the price, which is always fun, isn't it? On sales day. I'll have a cheeky bid on that. You've got to have a cheeky.
Well, you usually do.
Well, I like to. You can't be in a business like this.
You've got to this time start at somewhere for Julian with 4 figures.
Okay.
And I don't mean £1, 10 shillings and 5 pence.
You remember that was legal tender, you do. Right, moving on. We're going to sell one of our vehicles now. Our lovely 1932 Renault KZ7. So have a look at this. This, you may know, was once our promotional vehicle. We've done our promoting now, and thanks to you wonderful people, we're now so busy, we don't need it anymore. So we have George instead now to promote our business for us. So instead, we'd like you to buy it. And this is a great old vehicle, this, George, isn't it? What do you know about the old Renault?
I know quite a lot about this because
knew he would.
when it... There you go. Yes, it's a bit older than I am this time, Paul. But yes, it's 1932 and originated in France. And came over to England about 20 years ago. And in fact, a friend of mine had this vehicle and we bought it off him, as Paul just said. And basically what's interesting about it is that it was probably used for something like market stall holder, vegetables or the like, because the sides come out and there's a platform where you put the display it is. But the really nice thing about this car, apart from the fact that you're going to mention it's got some very nice Michelin tyres on it.
Has, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You probably can't see it, but under here there's a net, and that's where you put all your maps and things. But written up here is details where somebody had written a log of what they were doing with the car at the time.
Amazing.
It is. And I've driven this vehicle. It needs a bit of more recommissioning because it's not run for a couple of years. It's a great vehicle for promotional vehicles, you know, in all aspects of it.
Well, it did us the world of good, didn't it? We started with this. We used to have our sign writing on the side.
Yeah.
We used to have a sticker, which I think is criminal. What you should do, because the patination on this is next level, isn't it?
Yeah.
You would pay somebody thousands of pounds to patinate a vehicle like this. This is all natural and real. There's a couple of amazing sign writers I've worked with who would sign write this for you and age it all back. And and it just looks so good, and you'd never know that it wasn't the original sign writing that's aged at the same time.
Go and see shows in America, which I was lucky to do a couple of years ago. They love vehicles like this. They don't want them bright and shiny and polished. They want it to look as though it's just been found, left as it is. And this has got everything. Oh yes, it's got some indicators on it and a few modern things, but the
Isn't
rest,
it great?
It's wonderful.
Yeah, but there's a guy called Steve Parsons who does patinated sign writing, so he could make it all look as if it was the same age. So you could park this outside your record shop, your greengrocers, whatever it is your business is.
Yeah.
And that would be a traffic stopper, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Absolute traffic stopper.
I mean, I think with a bit of recommissioning, because it'll have a very strong engine in it. And I think the last time I remember reading, it was used for a photo shoot as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're doing something with models or whatever it is, this as a backdrop is fantastic.
Wonderful car. £8,000 to £10,000. You could be the next owner of that. And I say we can vouch for that. We thought it was so nice. We bought it ourselves. 1928 Chenard Walcker T11 Limousine. So what can you tell me about this magnificent motor car, other than the fact it's huge?
Well, I'd like to say you pronounce that really rather well, because who can I judge, because I failed my French. But anyway, an interesting car. I first saw this car as a steam rally up in the Lake District in about 2010. And when the car came in, part of the history is a brochure from the Kendal Steam Fair. And I was there, and I can show it to you. Myself and my wife were exhibiting bicycles, Singer bicycles. And this car was there. So it is a limousine, and the history of these cars is the fact that they were one of the first cars to race at Le Mans and did very rather well. I think Paul's reading his iPad to see that that's what I'm saying.
I am.
True.
Well, it's gospel. But also, this has got a 2200cc Land Rover engine. So would I be right in thinking that it's probably a little bit more usable every day?
Well, there it is. To somebody that doesn't know, it's been very, very well done.
Yeah.
And it means that, obviously, it's got an alternator on it, it's got an electric fan, And yes, I mean,
So it's kind of a resto mod almost, isn't it? This you've got all that wonderful old bodywork, but you can get that service for 10p and 2p. Anyone that can do
well,
Land
it'll
Rovers.
go forever as well. But you say that there's been lots of manufacturers have kept cars on the road by putting other engines in. I mean, I'm a member, as you know, of the Singer Car Club, and we've got lots of pre-war Singers with Morris Minor engines in.
Yeah.
So you can take them down to France where it is. But coming back to this car, extremely elegant. As you can see, it is the limousine. If you want to come and have a look in the back, you can see it's got the seats as well. So for the children or whatever you want.
Isn't it fantastic? Can I just show you the amount of rear seat legroom in this? Because it's the limo, there you go. Like, if you just come around here. So you've got these wonderful little occasional seats that fold out, a bit like a taxi. So you've got the huge legroom if you want to just sit on your own, or the ankle biters can sit on the floor. It's utterly charming. You've got this huge trunk. This is why the Americans call it a trunk, because in the old days it literally was a trunk. Look at that. So decent boot space, seating for 6 or 7 in real comfort. And it's no reserve, George. How on earth have we managed to get a car this nice in for no reserve?
Well, unfortunately, the gentleman that owns it at the moment hasn't got a garage big enough to put it in.
So his loss is your gain, potentially,
Well,
if you're watching this.
hopefully somebody... I mean, it's... Just look at it. Again, you know, this is when they were able to shape cars, which is what they did. They could bend metal. Look at the way those wings are. Gone are the wings where they're just flat, like that. They put shape in them, with the scalloped heads and everything. Avery Hardle shock absorbers on it for the suspension, and the lovely old Michelin tyres.
Isn't it great, though? But that could be like just a few thousand you could own that for, couldn't you?
Yeah. It's interesting because some of the things, it's got Lucas headlamps on it, but with the Marshalls inside. Classic French headlamps.
I have a lot of love for this car, George. You know what? I actually really like the fact it's got that Land Rover engine in, because you could get that service for probably a couple of £100, couldn't you? And it'll take you anywhere you want to go.
Well, as I say, it was at a steam fair up in Flueborough when I last saw it. Wasn't it a small world when things like that?
I know. I'm going to have a bid on that as well, you know. It's just too cool.
You're not tapping me up for a loan, are you?
I might need it for that one. I love that. Right, moving on to this because it's just so handsome and elegant. 1948 Bentley Mark 6 again. So this one doesn't have, obviously, the double spare wheels on, but it's no less gorgeous. So this is on the button, ready to go. 14 to 16 grand would buy you this. It's got the sliding roof. It's got the vanity mirrors and picnic tables. It's got the indicators, which, again, not for the purist, but I actually think when you do modifications like that, it just makes it safer, easier to use. It means you use it more.
Yeah, I mean, these cars, like I was just talking about the other one over there, this is completely standard as it left the factory. Single colour, still got the nice coach line. It's not perfect in every way, but if people know the prices of these really good ones fetch a lot more than what we're asking for this car.
Well, we're asking
And it
14 to
runs.
16.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this car a few years ago would be with a 2 somewhere, but you know, the market has changed, and that reflects the prices that we hope to try and get for the vendor with this car. But as you can see, if you come and have a look inside,
It's got some bills as well, George. We've got major bodywork repair, engine service, £2,200 spent last year as well, and recommissioned in 2020 with over £5,000 spent.
Absolutely.
So I was at Revival on Sunday, George, and they were using all old Bentleys, you know, for ferrying the VIPs from one side of the site to the other. And it was all Mark 6s, early T1s, all that kind of stuff. So you're in that, as soon as you buy a car like this, you're in that club then, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. You can see from the other one that we showed you before, the interiors can be different with the pleated seats. They have been recoloured is the word I suppose. I think it's a little bit brighter than the original would have been. It would have been more of a burgundy
How
colour.
decadent, George.
Well, of course it is. Red is always decadent, isn't it? Eh? So, but it's a lovely car. Look
It's
at that.
fabulous.
Look at that shut for that door. Hey, you don't need to slam it. Quality. And it's steel bodied. And actually, it's survived remarkably well because some of these have real problems in the rear wheel arches around here. But all looking at this, where the seams is, it's a good genuine old car. You know, these really are very prone to rusting. Nice big boot, and it's even got the little picnic table. So on a nice wet day, you sit there and have your corned beef sandwiches or whatever it is, and sit back there and let the rain.
I love this as well, because I'm guessing maybe the initials of the owner, or maybe
At some stage.
Yeah, at some point. A little bit of the car's history there. But like I say, these were being used to ferry very, very important and rich people around a Goodwood Revival in a car that you could buy for well under £20,000, even with your fees on top. So that's a great way to travel. So moving on, we're going to take you over to the other side of the auction room. It says here, George, a highly usable late Edwardian. Is that you or the car?
Both.
Okay. 1915 Enfield 10 HP Tourer. What a thing.
It is. It comes from somebody that I've known for a very long time and has a wonderful collection of Edwardian cars and even earlier than this. 10 horsepower. At the time, around the 1915s and things, lots of manufacturers, names of which have all faded away now, made lots of little 10 horse cars like this. Enfield, ironic little bit on the badge at the front, says the sign of the gun. We can see it's an artillery type gun. Now, whether it's anything to do with Enfield rifles or not,
Who knows?
Well, I've tried to find out, but it's definitely got some connection.
Well, coming from Nottingham, the home of gun crime, I should buy this really, shouldn't I? Because it seems like the perfect thing.
Nottingham, in the time when you're talking about, all he was doing was making lace things, wasn't doing anything about guns. But anyway, a wonderful car from 1915, Edwardian in style. When the vendor brought the car, he took me out in it. It was a treat to drive in it, and I'd like to drive it as well, which I could do. I know how to start it. It's got everything that you'd want in a really nice Edwardian car. You could take this to any event and you'd stop a crowd wherever you go with it. A little 10-horse engine, and I don't know, I can show it to you people if you want.
But also, while Fraser's on the interior, isn't it stunning, just the quality of how things were made? Everything from the switchgear to the binnacles, to the selectors and adjusters. Yeah. Things were made to last in those days, weren't they? They really were made to give you 200 years of service.
Well, you have to remember that when you look at cars like this, I mean, they say when you look at, it's only like motor cars of sort, they've only been around for about 20 years.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, you're only 11 years off the veteran classification on this, aren't you?
You are, absolutely. But it has got all these lovely dials and switches and things. It actually, by the way, has indicators.
What?
Which have been fitted.
What is this new thing? It'll never catch on.
Well, it needed it for modern safety, but it's even little switch. Look how that's been made there for the indicators.
Stunning.
The old-fashioned speedo. It's got 3 speeds, but there's a little lever there that so you don't get into reverse. It's like you lift it up like a gate, because your last thing was already be going forward and then go into reverse.
But even things like this luggage racket, everything's just so beautifully made, isn't it?
Well, if you're going anywhere, you strapped your luggage, roped it on the back, and off you went with it.
Yeah.
But it's had quite a lot of money spent on it.
May I talk you through that? So benefits from a new wiring loom, all the lights and indicators have been sorted, new tyres within the tubes, new stainless steel exhaust system, reconditioned gearbox, the engine's been stripped down and rebuilt, reconditioned magneto. It's all original body and wings.
Yeah.
So they've really spent the money where it's hidden away, and they've kept the originality where you want to see it.
Yeah. I mean, you can just see there's a little small 10-horse engine. It's just under 1,100 cc's in newish time money. So we've got a filter there for the fuel, off-draft carburettor. It's a lovely little engine. You can work on that without any trouble at all, can you?
That looks like a very pleasant Sunday morning spent tinkering there, doesn't it?
It is. But the interesting thing about it as well, of course, is it's all brass. And like everything else, the manufacturers have brass radiators, but of course you have to keep cleaning them.
Yeah, you do.
Right, so the next thing they came along with, they think, we'll put nickel bar away. You still had to keep cleaning the nickel. So what do we do by about 1920, 29? Somebody said, well, we'll put some chrome on it, the third process. Well, that rusts a bit, but you don't have to polish it quite as often. That's very true. But this is a wonderful little car. Just as a fact, it's about the same size as a Mini.
Is it really? What, 7 foot long?
Well, no, but the wheelbase and the width and everything, about the same size.
Well, there you go. A little bit more than a Mini, 18 to 20,000 pounds. But when you think what the price of veteran cars is, because a good veteran car is 6 figures now, isn't it?
Depending on how many cc's, how many blocks it's got.
Yeah, because if it's eligible for London to Brighton, it immediately attracts a tax.
80,000, or probably not now, £60,000 will be one that's got a single cylinder. But if you get one that's got a 4-cylinder engine, it's 300 grand.
That's what I mean. Or you could buy this, which is only 11 years later, for 20 grand.
Yeah, it'd be very good. But it's a very stylish. It's got history of the journey of the motor car. From this, something else came along, war changed things. And obviously behind me is testament that something that's from a different era. But
we'll come to that in a moment. But one more first, on this amazing tour of, it's like being in a museum, but you can buy them all.
And he's not talking about me.
So George, you were talking earlier about how cars started to become very stylish and they started to really sculpt metal and show off a little bit. I think with the Morris 8 Tourer, you're almost at the zenith of that. You've got some beautiful shapes and curves here, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, Morris 8 is obviously the equivalent of Austin and other manufacturers. I have very fond memories of a Morris 8. My father had one, which was a pre-war one, and the body, it was a 4-seat. Start again. I have very fond memories of cars like this because my father actually had one. It was originally a 4-door, which the body had collapsed, and in fact he made it into a Woody. And I can remember as a child when this was being taking place in about 1950-51, sitting on the chassis at the back here, as they pushed it in and out of the garage, and seeing the prop shaft go round. The second thing that I have many about these is these had suicide doors.
Yeah.
And there was one time I was coming up the Formby bypass with my father driving, and I'd actually not shut the door, and it flew open.
Whoa.
Right, and there was came in and I had to grab it. It is.
Which is why they're called suicide doors, because it's quite
Correct.
easy to kill yourself.
Yeah, it was indeed. Well, it's interesting because sometimes after that he put a safety chain on so it wouldn't happen, and that's why they have to sometimes have 2 clicks here, so it stops it opening. But this car, right, it's been sensible. They made a number of versions. Obviously, they made 2-door, 4-door, and they made what this is like a 2-seater car. You can put things. They are unbelievably good and reliable to drive. We actually sold a Saloon one of these a few years ago, and we sold it to a chap somewhere down in the south of England, and he drove it all the way back there, having bought it here in our sale. He didn't obviously go down any motorways, and probably took him about 10 hours, but he didn't blink a thing about it. So, good strong little engines in them. This is in great condition. It's come from a good home, and hopefully somebody that would buy it would be able to enjoy it and go out and have some picnic runs, be a member of the Chester Vintage Car Club or wherever you live, and people would love to see this out on the road.
I agree. And what would that fetch, do you think, George, on sale day?
Well, 7, hopefully.
Is that all?
Yeah.
What an amazing car.
Yeah.
You just get so much fun for your money in this market, don't you?
Well, as you know, I drive a pre-war car, so and have done for many years, and hopefully will do for a few more years yet. And there is something about them, you know, get a good map. Don't go, I mean, yeah, if you have to go through Birmingham, but try and avoid it. You just
Never go through Birmingham in any car.
Well, yeah, you get lost on the underpasses if you do. But what I'm about to say is these are great country cars. So if I had this car, I'd think nothing about going into North Wales, going up to the Lake District, going to the Trough of Bowland, go and have a nice lunch, meet other people with car clubs that have got similar cars. You can have a fantastic time. It is a lovely car.
And we're saving the best for last. So they're all available in this sale. All of these cars you've just seen, you can buy. Don't forget, you need to register to bid. Don't forget, we've got classic cars only on Saturday. And you need to be able to bid only if you've registered. So don't forget, inline, online, in person.
Telephone bids.
All of that. But you have to register to bid if you want to see any of those cars. Now, the next one I'm going to show you isn't in the next sale, but you can very much register your interest.
Oh my
and
God.
be ready for the sale after that. So this last one, this is a tease. You can't buy this in the next sale. Well, we say that. If you came and offered the vendor exactly the amount of money they wanted, stranger things have happened.
Well, it's part of our process.
It really is. You can. We had a couple of cars for this sale that didn't quite make it because somebody came up and offered all the money that the vendor wanted and then some. And in that case, we obviously put those forward to the vendor. So if you see this and you can't wait till the next sale, and I don't blame you, 1928 Hadfield Bean, and you think, I would like to own this today, come and talk to us. But George, tell me about this magnificent car.
This is a word that I probably can't spell it, but anyway, is a unique car. It has unbelievable history, and it's a pleasure to offer it for sale in our sale in October. It's a Hadfield Bean. Now, a lot of motoring people probably know what the name Bean was. They made cars for about 7 or 8 years. What they may not know is the fact that Hadfield was a company in Sheffield that made steel for the motor industry. And obviously at the time in about 1927-28, they were wanting to join venture to keep this car going. It is unbelievably elegant. It's known as a 5-seater, which is even better. And with this style and whatever it is, there's some wonderful history, which I'm not going to go into now, but there's files after files after files. And as I say, it's known as Lady Percy. Look at that. There's a style that's very special from that time. So if anybody is interested in it, it can be bought before the sale in October for somewhere between £17,000 and £20,000.
And there you go. There's the original point of sale. Now, back in the day, you would have spent somewhere between £395 and £495. It's probably going to be nearer to 20 today, isn't it? 20,000.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But the one thing which I've pointed out, and there's a lot more I can point out about this car, there's a number of things I like. Modern cars, they think it's clever to have heating and everything in it. In the back seat, there's vents on the bottom, and you can control both. The vents there, you can control hot and cold coming from the front of the car. But here you can see Bean. Now it's interesting because it says Tipton, which is where it was made. But it
In the West Midlands?
No, but it's not, because you didn't know the West Midlands. They're still known as Staffordshire.
What?
Yes, because I think West Midlands only came about when you had all that reorganisation in the 70s.
Tipton's in the West Midlands.
Yeah, but it's Staffordshire
It's in the West Midlands.
now. Tipton is still there, but there's some wonderful history with it. And yeah, please come and have a look at it.
It is lovely. It just screams presence. It really does. It's a wonderful thing. And like I say, George knows all about it.
And I haven't driven it.
So there you go. Make sure you've registered to bid. Make sure you're here on Saturday, online, in person, whichever suits you, and buy these wonderful cars.